like, comment, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. All right, y'all. I'm back with another flashback. This features Velvet sitting in the dark. Guys, please be sure to drop me a comment, smash the heck out of that like button, and share this video. I am working diligently on getting all of my content re-uploaded to YouTube, adding my commentary so that I can meet the YouTube guidelines, guys. This is why you guys are seeing so many flashbacks from my channel, but I can assure you I am staying abreast of all things happening within Carbonations with the ex-members and the current members. So I will keep you posted on that as well. All right, y'all, let's get into this flashback video. Subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Hey everybody. Hey Zobe. Hey y'all. I know it's been a minute since you guys heard from me. And I know that you guys want to hear from me. And I'm not doing this for you guys. I'm doing it more for myself and to encourage someone out there who may need it. I get a lot of inboxes about healing and just, being strong. And a lot of people ask me about my strength. So I just wanted to address that. I wanted to talk about that. Hey everybody, I see everybody in the chat. Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all, hey. So I'm gonna just get started. Number one, regardless of anything that you're going through in life, when you're connected to your higher self, aka God, aka the Most High, aka Allah, aka Jesus, aka Yahshua, aka Krishna, aka, when you're connected to a higher source that you know to be God, and you have a relationship with Source, you are in consistent prayer mode. Whether you're physically doing something or mentally resting, you're always in prayer mode.
Oh, and by the way, guys, I put the canvas over the video because I didn't feel like staring into the dark. So I thought it just made it look a lot better. It doesn't make it sound any better and make any more sense as far as what's coming out of Velvet's mouth, because here she is again trying to act like she can teach someone, and she is a child herself.
Resting, you're always in prayer mode, and not in prayer mode for the sake of asking for something, but prayer mode for the sake of being grateful for what you have, sitting in gratitude for what you have. And no matter what you guys seen me go through or is seeing me go through, there's a constant gratitude that lies within me that surpasses all trauma, all hate, all jealousy, all envy, all the lower vibrational aspects of life. And this is where you guys see my strength come from. The strength I have is because of my connection to Source, is because of my connection to the Most High, and I put that first. And people have questioned my philosophy and how I live my life, but my life and the decisions that I make in my life is not going to look as the same as yours does, and neither will yours look the same as someone else's. So generally, we must have respect for each and every one of our journeys, and just be grateful that we're coming out of whatever it is that mentally suppresses us, physically suppresses us. And for me personally, just going back to my connection with God, not a lot of people will understand your relationship with the Most High. Neither is it anyone's responsibility or duty to understand your relationship between you and the Most High. That's only for you to understand. And that is a relationship that only you can have. So the only thing that I've been doing in my life to push me forward into my soul journey, into my spiritual development, is staying connected to the Most High. Listening and being obedient to certain things that I am supposed to do and what I'm not supposed to do.
Y'all, when Velvet said she's listening to the Most High on what to do and what not to do, the lie detector test determined that was a lie.
Not supposed to do. And it has ultimately led me to where I am right now in this moment. And I personally don't have any regrets. I personally don't feel any regrets, in so many words, for the lack of better words. I'm grateful for where I am. I'm grateful for the people around me. I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful for the things that I do have, considering other factors that are misfortunate or unfortunate. Nevertheless, I just got on here to say all of that, to say this. No matter what you're going through in life, take it to God. Take it to the Most High. Allow the Most High reveal itself to you in your life. And one of the hardest things is going to be obedient, because certain things that you want to do might not look like what God wants you to do. And you just have to be faithful in the understanding and in the knowing that these things, these challenges, these adversities that you face, these things that you're going through, is ultimately supposed to evolve you. It's ultimately supposed to bring you to one.
Y'all, do y'all think that Velvet take her own advice? I don't think so. I don't think she be taking her own advice. I think she just like giving it. I think that's what's going on here.
Supposed to bring you to point A and then get you to point B, point C, etc. You're on a journey. We're on a journey. I'm on a journey to understanding myself, to getting to know myself, to realizing who I authentically am. Whether that looks like being in the presence of someone else or not, ultimately, I'm getting the lessons that I need to spiritually evolve. And I personally believe that's the message in this whole scheme of life, in this whole ordeal of going, or for the sake of going through something, is to understand who you are. And once you understand who you are, stay true and authentic to you. Nothing, no one, no place, or whatever should come into your life to change who you are, especially if it's at the detriment of you or changing you to be something that's outside of who you can naturally be. You only can be you. If people accept you, great. If people don't accept you, great. You're not going to be liked everywhere. You're not going to be accepted everywhere. And that's okay.
Y'all, Velvet over here talking to herself right now. I swear. I promise you she's talking to herself.
You're not going to be accepted everywhere. And that's okay. You know? And it is what it is. And, you know, people are going to have their own opinions. People are going to have their own ideas of what should and shouldn't be done. But that's not up to you. You know, it's just not. And for me personally, I respect people's journey. I respect what people go through. I respect, you know, the level of consciousness of where they are mentally, spiritually, because ultimately I know that has nothing to do with me. You know, I can only realize my relationship with the Most High. I can only be within my own self-expression and my own authenticity. I can't do that or be there for someone else to be that. So giving grace to each other is a huge part of learning who you are. Forgiving others, forgiving things is a big portion of learning who you are. And most things and some things that we go through in life, it will be hard, and You're going to have to make hard decisions. But what should be the focus point is you giving it to God. That's the focus. The focus is allowing God to move through you, move through your life. If you have to fast to do that, do it. If you have to cut people out of your life to do that, do it. If you have to move to another state to do that, do it. If you have to let go of whatever, materialistics, whatever, even certain aspects within yourself that you might not generally like about you, let it go so that God can move through you, so that God can fill you with the answers and the ideas and the visions that you naturally have. That's just it. That's the focus. Give it to God. Pray about it. And I say that because that's what I've been doing for all of my life. I know that many of you may not know who I am as a whole and have not been in my life fully for all of these 25 years to completely understand who I am. But this is in a nutshell of where my strength comes from. This is in a nutshell why I'm able to forgive and move forward and not hold any type of animosity or malice or vengeance, revenge, for things that were less fortunate. I do not desire to hold in my heart anything that is of anger, anything that is of toxicity, anything that is of spiritually devolving. Like I don't have time for it, for me personally, only because I'm responsible for not only myself, but for 2 other entities in my life that mean so much to me. So how I'm moving and how I give things to God moving forward and how I position myself in the obedience of what God is telling me to do is going to affect my life and my children's lives and anyone else's lives that I come into contact with. And from what I've analyzed about myself thus far, whether people have their opinions or not, I've added nothing but greatness to everywhere I've gone, to every person I've touched. I've given life, I've bred love, I've been me authentically. And quite honestly, I was emotionally abused for being me. I was physically abused for being me, and I stepped back and took responsibility for my own authenticity, being in these less fortunate situations, to rise above it and choose me. And that's ultimately how I got out of these things, was because I chose me, period. And I encourage you to do the same. It's not going to be easy because we start to have attachments. We get in people's lives. We find different places to go. We collect and hoard certain materialistic things. And we think that just because we have it, that we should attach ourselves to it. And then that somehow, to some extent, whether it be a great extent or a small extent, become the trajectory of who we are and who we become for the rest of our lives, when that is not okay to some degree. You must be so whole within yourself to the point where you're attracting the people, places, and things into your life. You're not going find things. You're not going scope it out. You're not going plot and plan on things. Everything's coming to you. And I'm sharing with you because this has been happening to me. Whether it was a good experience or a bad experience, my whole journey has been to understand who I am and become whole within myself, be the best partner that I can be for me, and let that overflow, let that trickle into my relationships, into my partnerships, and whatever that may look like in life. And I know that moving forward, by my relationship that I have with God and the fact that I'm obedient, God will be shown through me, and I'm not afraid of that. And if I have to be rejected to be closer to my goal, to move closer to my goal, to authentically be myself without any inhibitions, then I will do that. I will sacrifice my attachments. I will sacrifice the parts of me that hold me back from evolving.
I don't even think that Velvet knows what the word sacrifice means. I really don't. I honestly do not. She gave up her apartment in Ohio and took those girls into California with absolutely positively no plan whatsoever. She had to get Solar to come and save her from that whole scenario and situation. Then she ended up moving to Mexico with those girls. Like, she's just, no. Sacrifice, she doesn't know what sacrifice is.
Hold me back from evolving. And I have some interesting characteristics about myself that is not healthy. And I know that, and I know exactly what parts of my personality is toxic. And so I personally choose not to dwell within my own demise. I choose to pray about it. I choose to allow God to help me release myself from these things that I'm struggling with the things that I'm challenged with. And when I do that, God is shown to me in my life. Things reveal themselves. Answers come about. I'm always led on the right path to where I need to be, even if I'm in the wrong place. And this has been my life. This has been my whole life. Ever since I was a child, I had no choice but to pray to God, because God was the only person that I had from a very young age. God was the entity that I would pray to and tell all my emotions to and cry to and release these earthly things to, not a human. And that's just honest. And I'm saying that again because this is the goal that we all should be coming to get to, because we all want God in our life in some kind of way. We all want God's mercy, and we can as a conscious community, we can sit and attain all of the knowledge that we can and apply it to our lives, and just put ourselves on a pedestal as far as we can. But none of these workings is going to be worth it if we don't truly put our faith and our minds and our souls in the hands of God. And that's real. That's true. We have, and I'll speak for myself because I can't speak for y'all, but I have been in so many situations where God showed itself to me and it was clear. So at this point in my life, I have not even to the smallest degree, I have no unfaithfulness in me when it comes to God. Whether God wants me to do whatever, I trust and know that it's for my better good. I know that it's for my highest good, and I know that it's for the highest good of everyone else around me, because I know my relationship with God. And quite honestly, if that's how you feel about yourself and your relationship with God, never allow any person, place, or thing to come into your life and let that distort the knowing and the relationship that you have. Because like I said, that's your relationship. Only you will ever have that. And that's a part of being whole within you. That's a part of your spiritual evolution, truly being in your spiritual development. Because when you ask for God to reveal to you, when you ask God to show up for you, when you ask God to show itself, when you really allow God to move in your life, there will be no shadow of a doubt. And most of life is trying to trick us and make us believe that that's not true, or that's just a coincidence. But it's no coincidence. It's happening for a reason. It's right there for a reason. You're going through it for a reason. So we need to be looking at more of the lesson. What's the lesson here? You know, what's the lesson here to evolve into more into my spiritual evolution? That's what I'm worried about. How can I become a better version of me to the point where as I move forward in my journey, I'm attracting more high vibrational things and more high vibrational things and more high vibrational things. So with that being the case, I hope that you guys are inspired by what I said and to really cherish your relationship that you have with God, because only you will have that relationship. Ray Swift says, there's so much power in your story. You can really be an agent for change and growth. Use it wisely. I personally agree, Ray, and I feel like that is happening, and I feel like...
No offense, y'all, but I wish these people in the comments would not gas Velvet or Solar up talking about she has a very powerful story. She does definitely have a powerful story. I'm not going to take that away from her, but she damn sure don't know what to do with herself or it.
And I feel like that is happening, and I feel like that is in the making. And, you know, it comes with a heavy crown, but it is what it is. You know, the Lord will never give you, and God will never give us anything that's burdensome to the point where we can't handle it. And so that's why I tell you to be thankful for what you have, because when you're thankful for what you have, God will give you the things that you need. Say, for instance, if you're in a situation and you might not have enough patience for it, but when you take away your focus on being impatient and not having enough patience and put your focus on being grateful for maybe a certain level of communication or a certain level of freedom when it comes to your self-expression, be grateful for that. And God knows your heart. God knows what you need. God knows your mind. So when you're grateful for the contrast in this situation, God will automatically bestow to you, reveal to you, and give to you what you do need. And I know that from experience. And Tony says, hey, priestess, I'm ready to vibrate on your frequency. And this is the thing, Tony. I see the comments you leave and the messages you leave. And those comments and those messages are pretty divine. And quite honestly, it reminds me of who I am and not to second guess who I am. And so with your comment being stated, I think that we all have a certain frequency that we vibrate on. Some people match more to it and some people don't. But at the end of the day, quite honestly and quite literal, we all vibrate on within our own frequencies. We all have certain energy signatures. So whoever you are and whatever frequency you reside on, you are supposed to be embodying that and being that authentically. And sometimes we can look at life and say that some people who vibrate on low frequencies are not supposed to be vibrating that low and they need to change and things like that. But how do we know that that is the exact purpose that they're supposed to have, to play as the change in your life? And this is where grace comes in. This is where not judging anyone comes in. This is where being true to you comes into play. And so it's not a matter of vibrating on my frequency. It's a matter of vibrating on the frequency that you resonate with.
Now, I do agree, everybody does vibrate on their own frequency. Like, everybody has their own individual energies. I totally agree with that. But what I'm curious about is, like, what is Velvet's energies, y'all? What is her energies? Baby mama is giving very much baby mama. Is that her energies, y'all? Put it in the comments. Let me know.
On the frequency that you resonate with. If me being myself and being authentic to who I am is reminding you or showing you that you should do the same, you should do that with yourself. You see, like-minded people will always come together to think on a certain frequency of thoughts, yes. But ultimately, you have goals, you have dreams, you have a vision. And I support that. You see, in that might to an extent, for me, I support people and the frequency that they vibrate on. But that doesn't mean that I have to lower my frequency or get on their frequency to coexist and be me. No, I respect and I support people's visions and what they are and who they are and how they express themselves. And I also do that for myself. So if somebody coming around me that's cussing and screaming and has a low vibration to them, I can understand that. That's a part of a frequency. I get that. I see that. I feel that because I have a gift to. But ultimately, is that a place that I want to reside? Absolutely not. So if I can be the change in someone's life to influence them to be greater and pass on the godly wisdom that I have gotten from the God that I serve and the God that I know to be true, that I have a relationship with, and give that to them for them to become a better person, if God calls me to share that wisdom with them, I will. But I'm not just about to be out here just telling people what to do and trying to give them advice on that's not my job. My job is to be obedient to what God is telling me to do. And sometimes I'm called into different places to be God's vessel of change. I'm called into different relationships to be God's vessel of change. And I just have to have discernment for myself and know where I'm supposed to be as far as what God is showing me, how reality is being reflected to me. And the same goes for you. Reese's, what are you saying? Let me see. Okay, story. Okay, Tony, yeah, that makes sense. But someone just learned from or was inspired by what I just said. So thank you for putting that in the chat, because it's unraveling. Reese said, "Can I send you a church to watch tomorrow? I've had you on our prayer list for years." Sure, Reese. Sure.
Y'all ever notice how Velvet becomes all high and mighty and into God and believing in the Lord and all this other stuff right after she break up with somebody? Every time, it never fails. And when she's with him, she's the most rude, disrespectful. She gets up there and cusses and carries on, talks about people. But as soon as she break up with him, she's back into Jesus. Oh my goodness. Velvet, you need to cut it out like a coupon, ma'am. Just cut it out.
Sure. I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize for that. But yeah, these are my thoughts at the moment because of the influx of messages and comments that I get about my strength, about releasing toxicity, about forgiving, and there's levels to it. Don't get me wrong, like there's levels to it, but ultimately the strength shines more than what anyone has ever said or could say, or what even I could say. So this is what I'm being called to share tonight. So you guys, I just want you guys to be inspired. I want you guys to take your, not even want to, like God speaking through me, the Most High, that's even fueling me to even do this right now. Just be aware that your relationship with the Most High is super important. It's something that should come first every day you wake up and every day you go to sleep and throughout your day. And it should be something that's cherished. It shouldn't be something that's taken for granted, because God is what reigns supreme. And I will always stand by that, and I will always stand true to that, no matter what I go through. No one can tell me my life story. No one can tell me what's going on in my life. And no one can damn sure tell me the relationship that I have with God. So I just hope you guys understand what I'm saying. Ray says, some people are committed to misunderstanding you. So nothing you say will be received by them. Just do you honestly and let God do the rest. And right, quite honestly, that's why I'm even talking about God right now in this moment, because I haven't had the energy, neither do I have the energy to talk. Like, I feel like I'm more in a doing mode than a talking mode. But when God calls you forward, when God tells you to be, you must be. There's no way around that. And if you don't be, you will devolve. You know, there are many people. Hey, y'all. Hey, Gwendolyn. There are many people out here who need the word of God, and they are not, how do you say it, connected to the relationship that they should have with God. And so God sends certain people in life to these other people's lives to encourage them to rekindle that relationship, rekindle that flame. And I feel like that's just what I'm here for right now. And I'm even in this moment reminding myself to keep my faith lit, to keep my flame lit, because faith is what took me to where I am right now. I can't even begin to tell you guys the things, the people, the places that I've let go for God to really take me on my spiritual journey and show me who I am.
I hope y'all are enjoying this video so far. Please be sure to drop me a comment and smash the heck out of that like button for me. Thank you.
Spiritual journey and show me who I am. And it's it's scary at times, and it's not easy. But what I know to be true, what reigns to be true, and what I know to be real in my life is God. God is real. From when I was a very young age, this is why I posted a picture on my page the other day, and I said, my life is the miracle. Because if you sat with me and talked to me wholeheartedly to get to know me and get to know, the things that I've been through and the things that I've endured through, you will know that there is a God. You will know. And so in the moments when when God calls me forward to speak up on the behalf of whatever, whoever, however, I'm going to do that, because that's me being obedient to the relationship that I have with the Most High. And so with me sharing my thoughts, I know that there's going to be someone that's going to be inspired, and that's why I do it, because that's my goal, is to change myself. With me changing myself, I'm changing the world. And there's a reason why I'm on the internet. People say, get off the internet, do this, do that, but there's a reason why I'm here. And like I said, solitude and just being me by myself, like that's great, in a sense, because it's like I would rather be in my own solitude by myself and need help with certain things, and still trying my best to have a connection with God and spiritually evolve, rather than being in an environment or a place where everyone around me is trying to be unto my demise, and I that's why I feel like solitude is important. Me, naturally, I'm a collaborative person. I want a family, I want partnerships, I want relationships, but at the expense of what? Which will never be my emotions, my integrity, my dignity, my relationship with God, and the relationship that I have with my children, and the relationship that I have with myself. And it is what it is. We're all changing the world in some way, form, or fashion. Thank you for the badge, Jael, if I'm saying that correctly. Thank you for the badge. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Thank you guys for listening to me. But that's all I really had to say. Thank you, Gwendolyn. I appreciate the badges. Thank you, guys. I hope you guys are inspired by tonight, as I am inspired by tonight, to move forward in my night with prayer and gratitude to the Most High, and allowing God to fill me and move me and be inside of me and bring me to the next steps that I need to take, the next places I need to be, the next adventures I should experience, and the things that I should be doing. And so, yes, Ray, I believe that.
You know what's the next adventure I think you should go on, Velvet? Therapy. You need to go ahead and get you some therapy so that you can make wiser choices for your life and for your children.
Yes, Ray, I believe that. But yeah. Just live, Elk. Charity starts at home. That's Bible. The greatest impact you can have on the world is through those beautiful girls. Protect their spirits and nurture their foundation. And I think that's exactly what I'm doing. Whether it might look like that or not to the world, the Lord knows what I'm doing. God sees me. God sees my heart. God knows my heart. And that's where I only have comfortability at. Everywhere else in my life it's uncomfortable as fuck. And that's honest. That's just me being honest. But I have comfortability in knowing that I have the best interest for my children, and I'm building and nurturing their foundation to be the greatest people that they can be, while also cultivating that for myself. You know, I know that me taking care of myself and me being there for me goes a long way for my children. And so every day I'm just becoming the best version of me, whether that looks like it to the world or not. I really could give care less about how people perceive me or what they think, because that has nothing to do with me. I know that moving forward in my life, people are projecting, people will project, and that's okay. Like, that's okay, but I know who I am, and no one can tell me who I am. Like, that's just period. It's just period. Right, I agree. Val, how do you remain so grounded on your journey? Well, number one, I committed myself to figuring out who I am. Number one. And once I did that, once I committed to figuring out who I am and living from my most authentic space, that grounded me for my entire life. Because every situation that you saw me in the back of my mind, whether it was chaos or not, I'm thinking to myself, who am I right now? How am I responding right now? Do I like how I'm responding? Do I like who I am? And if I don't like who I am, I can change that with the Word of God, through the faith, and knowing that God is going to be there to help me through the processes. That's true for me. I can't say that. I can't speak for no one else. But that's true for me. Since the moment that I committed to understanding who I am. So I can honestly say that when I made that commitment, there were things that happened in my life that I did not know was going to happen. I had my children the way that I never planned. I got married to a man that I never thought I would get married to. You know, even down to the point where I knew that at some point in my life, I would never let a man abuse me. I would never let a man do anything to me that would undermine me. But I went through that. And when I went through these adversities, when I went through these things to understand who I am, I was feeling ungrounded for sure, because I felt like I was giving my power away to something external of me, when I should have been empowering myself in those moments to remind myself, like, you don't like this. This is not who you are. This is not what you do on a regular basis, like with yourself. And so when I felt ungrounded in those moments, I went back to the commitment that I had with myself. And I think that's what reigns supreme above any type of attachment or connection that you can have with this physical reality. You have to have a connection to yourself first. And so That's why I'm really unbothered when people talk about me or how they talk about me. It's so much to the point where now somebody can come into my life and just spew all of the false perceptions that they have of me, and I would sit there quietly and listen until they're done, and then I get a chance to be able to share who I am. That has nothing to do with the misperception that they have of me. That's mastery right there. That's self-mastery. Because I used to get frustrated. I used to be like, you don't understand. I used to just walk out.
Velvet, you still get frustrated. You still throw a temper tantrum and you still walk out. Solar told us all about how you left him in Mexico. Cut it out like a coupon, ma'am.
Be like, you don't understand. I used to just walk out. But now I'm to a point where I'm just like, okay, that's what you think. That's how you feel. I'm mastering my own emotions. I'm mastering my own temper. I'm mastering grace. I'm mastering forgiveness. I'm mastering a lot of things at one time because of the commitment that I have to myself, the person that I want to be. I'm committed to the person that I want to be. And who I want to be is the greatest version of me. And that's what keeps me grounded, along with the relationship that I keep on fire with God. I hope that I answered your question. I'm not really understanding your question, Gwendolyn, I'll be honest. How did you take your power back after leaving CN? Well, before I went there, I had a certain level of living. I lived a particular lifestyle, and I know how I wanted to live it. So being in that situation and having the mindset that I already had prior to coming was kind of hard to change. That's why I was always being physically abused, because my mindset was always going against the mindset of the person around me and the environment around me. So once I weaved through the bullshit of gaslighting, manipulation tactics, and using knowledge for power, because at some level when I went to CN, I didn't have a certain level of knowledge, like earthly wisdom. So once I understood certain things about earthly wisdom, that's how I was able to re-empower myself and pull my power back from that situation, because it didn't matter how much a motherfucker told me that I wouldn't be shit without them, or I couldn't conquer things without them, or I wouldn't be shit without them. That didn't matter to me. You could ram that shit into my head 1,000 fucking times if you will. But what I know to be true is that, and this brings me back to my initial point that I was talking about earlier with my relationship with God. I literally was a miracle baby. My life was a miracle. And when I remembered how miraculous my life has been because of my connection to God and how I've cultivated that prior to going to CN, I realized that I can surpass that. Like, it's just a level of knowing what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. And on top of that, I didn't have insecurities to the point where I would think to myself, like, at any moment, like, oh shit, I wouldn't be shit without him, because I had already built up a certain level of security within myself. I already was being validated for major accomplishments that I made before that situation. So once I got the understanding of some earthly wisdom and how to move in the earth plane and stuff like that, in this physical reality, there was nothing that anyone could do to stop me from leaving. There was nothing that anyone could do to keep me from going back. Like, it was a decision. It was a decision. So me taking my power back, to just to re-answer your question if you didn't catch it, Me taking my power back from being in that situation with carbonation or CN is the fact that I have my own inner validation. I have my own inner securities about who I am. And who I am is actually really fucking dope. So that's how I was able to take my power back. Because at that moment of me taking my power back, I realized prior to taking my power back that I was giving my power away. I was actually investing myself, and my energy was not being reciprocated. And so once I understood that I can give myself way better than what's being reciprocated to me, bro, like, come on, like that's just as clear as it can get. Like, that's just as clear as it can get. Like, good night, Ray. Good night, Ray. Have a good night. I appreciate that, Gwendolyn. I hope that you guys heard my answer to that question. What is the most important life lesson you will teach your children? Having a connection with God. I think that's the first lesson to ever be taught to any human. Because there is a world that exists outside of our physical senses and outside of the things that we perceive to be reality physically. So I feel like by teaching my children that lesson first, that will create a foundation for them to learn anything else in their lives and to reference anything that they go through in their lives to stay on their path and their journey that is laid out for them. Like, they won't be swayed how I was swayed in certain situations, because once I teach them about God, then there's other things that will trickle off of that, or that will lead into other things for me to teach them. But ultimately, that's the strongest foundation that I personally believe I can start off sharing with my girls. And I wanted to share this with you guys. I'll be coming out with some I actually have started a tactic to raise my girls to like improve their behavior and their listening skills and their cooperativeness with me being a mother. And so I'll share that with you guys via my YouTube channel. So if you guys can go subscribe to my YouTube channel to wait for that video to be uploaded, which probably be in maybe a couple hours, the most 24 hours. But I want to share that video with you guys because on this list of the things that I have to teach my children on an everyday basis is prayer. My children, I can't really speak for I because she's still young, but Eliana knows. Like, I'll be in meditative states. I'll be, in my prayer posture and stuff like that. And Eliana will come up to me and she'll be like, Mom, you praying to God? And I'll be like, yeah. She'll sit next to me and she'll pray. She'll even open up prayer sessions on her own. You see what I'm saying? She'll open up prayer sessions on her own. Eliana is very spiritually inclined, because I have been spiritually inclined and am only evolving every day, more and more each day. So, yeah, and I can honestly say that my dad was a huge part in teaching me, and my mom teaching me about the foundation of having God in my life. They taught me as much as they knew, as much as they could, but it took me very far in my life. Your pops was a great man. I knew him, and I worked with your stepmom at UMC Hospital as a...
All right, y'all. If you haven't picked up your copy of Greatness is a Habit, authored by Aaron Dixon, otherwise known as True. Many of you know him as True. He is an ex-Carbonation member, and he's authored this amazing read. If you are interested in self-development and growth, this book is a good one for you. It's available on Apple Books for $1, guys. I got my copy and I love this book.
Hospital police officer. I'm glad I had the honor to meet them. They really loved you. I agree, Tony. And sometimes I wish I still had my dad in my life where I can call him, because honestly, like, my dad, he showed me a level of love that I cannot even explain. And I know that I don't need to seek situations and people and places and things to give me that love, because my dad was that love, and I am my dad. I am my dad's seed. So the love that my dad had for me lies within me. So I know that I just need to cultivate myself more, and I need to be with me more, and hold me more, and cry to myself more, and so I'm not in a space where I used to be looking for love. I used to be looking for love, but now I'm just kind of like, I can give myself that love. I know I am giving myself that love, and sometimes I say to myself, because people, we naturally want to feel relatable. We naturally, especially if we are designed for a partnership, we naturally want partnerships. So we think to ourselves like, oh, I wish he was. Sometimes I think I wish he was still here, where I can go to him and talk to him and have that level of love between the physical, between two humans. And sometimes I cry about that. Sometimes I think about that. Sometimes I really miss that. And Eliana will be present for everything, all of those emotions and all of it. And she will hold me and she will hug me, and she will know, she knows like how I'm feeling. But in return, my children give me the love that, my dad gave me as well. And so, that even changed my perspective about what children are, who they are, and how they operate, and what they're thinking, and how they feel. So, it's for me, it's just about becoming whole within myself, being the best version of who I can be for me, and then let that trickle over for other people. I guess what I'm asking is, what advice would you give to someone who has gone through a divorce? So I'm a product of a divorce. I was a child who went through the divorce, and honestly, it was like one of the worst experiences I've had in my life outside of the carbonation thing. And what I learned as a child was that if you, because I don't know if you have children involved, so it's like, if you don't have children and you are going through a divorce, I would just say, just know why you're divorcing that situation, why you're going your separate way. Like, clearly understand why, and then also be able to communicate that, be able to, like, express why you feel like it's not for you, and then live your life. That's not much more you can do but that. But then, like, if it turns physical or like violent in any kind of way, emotional abuse, etc., then it just reconfirms why you're even getting the divorce. Because if you're in a relationship with someone, there's never supposed to be emotional abuse, physical abuse, or spiritual abuse for that matter, in any kind of way, verbal abuse, anything like that. So if that's happening, if you're authentically expressing how you feel, and you're not irate, and you're not screaming to the top of your lungs, and you're not trying to hurt the other person, but you're coming from a place of love for them to understand, then it's just reconfirming that you shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be in that partnership, because you don't deserve that, and neither do they. Whether they are that current person or not, they don't deserve what they're doing to you, and you don't deserve what you might do to them. Like, it's just a level of discernment. But if you have kids, I would highly suggest that anybody who's going through a divorce with kids, don't put your kids in the middle of it. Don't make or like force your children to choose between the parents. And I'm only saying that because that was something that happened to me. But then there's other cases where these parents.
All right, y'all. If you haven't picked up your copy of Greatness is a Habit, authored by Aaron Dixon, otherwise known as True. Many of you know him as True. He is an ex-Carbonation member, and he's authored this amazing read. If you are interested in self-development and growth, this book is a good one for you. It's available on Apple Books for $1, guys. I got my copy, and I love this book.
It's like certain parents that are getting divorces from the other parent. It is so toxic and it's so traumatic that if you had allowed the child to choose to have a relationship with the parent, they'll be traumatized. So it's a level of discernment. I can only speak for my personal situation. But outside of that, if it's not anything toxic that'll like harm the children, and you know that it's going to evolve the children and help the children become better people, allow the co-parenting to exist. But if that's not good, if that's not going to be like the best outcome for everybody involved, I would say that you should definitely have discernment, pray about it, and be obedient to what God is telling you to do. But one thing outside of that is to never down mouth or like make the other person like the end all be all of the blame for whatever it is going on. Like, for instance, when I first started out with Eliana, I have to tell Eliana the truth because she was present for most of the abuse that happened. So she naturally knows, like, why. So I was honest with her. I was truthful with her. But the energy behind my truth was not of revenge. It was not like that because he's just a bad nigga. Like, it was more so or less like, I wish that he could change. This is the energy behind the truth that I'm telling my young daughter. I wish that you could have your father in your life. I wish that things could be different, whether we're together or not. That's the energy that I had behind it. But if you're in a situation with your child and you feel resentful towards or have animosity towards the other party, there should never be a discussion that you have with a child that's reflecting your animosity, because children pick that up whether you know that or not, and then that'll cause confliction within them. So when Eliana comes to me talking about her dad and stuff like that, I just let her know how much I love her, and I let her know how much I'm here for her, and I try to redirect her energy because I know that her father probably isn't the best person to like allow her to talk to and be in his life. So I just tell her, like, I just show her better than I can tell her. And sometimes tough love can get in the way because children have to understand boundaries and stuff like that. But ultimately, your children going through a divorce should know that they are loved. There should be love in the midst of it. That's something that I did not get at all. I felt personally when I went through the divorce with my parents. And they may have thought that they loved me, and they may have thought that they did. They did. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's levels to it. But as the person that was going through it, I felt a plethora of things that I never want my children to feel going through the divorce. And so I stay away from that, and I just give love. "23 years of marriage. Sheesh. I just think, like, when people get divorces or people split ways, it's more or less like, what's the lesson? And that brings me back to my initial point. What's the lesson? You know, because we can blame each other all we want. We can sit here and say, well, you the reason why we broke up. You did this and you did that. But ultimately, like, if we're going to say that we love each other, if we're going to say that we understand each other, then there's a level of cooperation when it comes to understanding each other. Like, it must be mutual. It must be mutual whether you guys stay together or not. That's a healthy relationship whether you guys are together or not. Like, and that brings me back to the other point that I made about attaching ourselves so much to something to the point where it gets us out of our body. It gets us out of how we would naturally handle things. It frustrates us. It flusters us when it doesn't have to. It's just a matter of being you, coming from a place of love, and hoping and praying that other party is going to be either reciprocal and understand, you know, or show you something else to the point where you have to make a decision to walk away. And that's just life, you know. But I definitely grew from it. I'm definitely still growing from it, you know. And just because I went there, it doesn't mean that I was ever a bad person. It just means that there was lessons to be learned there. I went through those things to learn those lessons. You went through that to learn a lesson. It's just a matter of you having discernment for knowing what lesson that you have to learn. And the lesson is spiritual evolution. And that's the part that we don't know. We think a lesson is just like, oh, but your lesson is tied to you evolving spiritually. So how will you really know your lessons that you need to learn spiritually, or the areas you need to grow spiritually, when you don't know yourself? You don't even know, you don't know the things that you have to work on. And you might know the things you have to work on, but because of the world we live in, it keeps us oblivious, and it keeps us docile, and it keeps us detached from our own beings, like our own minds. So it's a level of discernment for real. Any tips for opening the heart chakra? Hold on, before I get to that question, hold on. She says, Karas, I notice so many men do not believe in legal marriage on paper. They feel it's a contract. Any tips? Okay. What's your take on legal marriage? For me personally, to each his own. Like, if a couple wants to get married, celebrate. If a couple doesn't want to get married, celebrate. I just feel like minds will come together, I feel like minds will come together and they will agree. As long as there is an agreement, then who am I to give my advice on what I think should be and should not be? But what I can tell you is from my own likes and dislikes, what and my take on marriage. I want to be married. I want to have a ceremony. I like the traditional marriage. I like it. People have their own thoughts about the government and how it's attaching you to the government, etc. And that is true, to an extent. And, but there are ways around that, and there are higher levels of ways of thinking about that. But for me personally, I absolutely want to have a ceremony. I absolutely want to dress up like a fucking goddess, princess, queen, and I want diamonds everywhere. I want pearls everywhere. I want white and gold and reds everywhere. I want the royalty. I deserve that. You feel me? Like, nigga, like, I know what I bring to the table. So, yeah, I want to be celebrated. I want to be celebrated. I want a marriage. Yeah, I want that shit. Give it to me. Period. That's my perspective, though. And I'm glad you was able to see our experiences, Karas, because it just is what it is. Like, you were meant to see that. Any tips for opening the heart chakra? For me personally, I just, there's levels to opening your heart chakra. I'm pretty sure I still have levels to open my heart chakra. But one of the couple things that I have done to open my heart chakra after the trauma that I've experienced for the last 25 years was to genuinely forgive the people and places and things that were viewed as a trauma in my life. And the way that I was able to do that, forgive that, was looking for the lesson in it and knowing that these circumstances were catalysts. These were experiences. It really didn't have anything to do with the person rather than what it was I was learning from the situation. So that made it easier for me to forgive. But that also didn't mean just because I forgave to let my boundaries down and let people walk over me and slide over me and do all of this extra stuff over me. But ultimately, forgiving just comes from a place of understanding why it happened. And that opens your heart chakra because you start to act more from a loving place when those things happen, because now you know where you have to grow and where you have to learn. That looks different for the other person. So now you have grace because you gave grace to yourself for learning that and going through that. So now you're able to extend that grace to someone else because you already gave it to yourself. See, everything starts with you. I had to forgive myself on a certain level for, making a fool of myself so many times. And when I did that, I was able to forgive other things that make a fool of themselves in reality, whether that has something to do with me or not. That's a level of opening your heart chakra. There's other things, but I would just say that for now. That's just currently what I'm going through too. Of course, every woman should want a man that's worthy of marrying her. That's facts. And that's the thing, Karaz, when that, like, women shouldn't be in the mind state of, like, trying to find a man. And this, I've said this again earlier in the beginning of the video. Women shouldn't, women, men, and children, we shouldn't be looking for anything. We don't have to look or wait for man to be ready or a woman to be ready or whatever the case may be. We should be being ourselves. We should be being ourselves so fucking much that we're not even thinking about the shit that we feel like we're waiting on. We should be so focused on cultivating who we are, expressing ourselves, like literal self-expression, to the point where by the time anybody catches your attention, you've attracted them to your life by you being yourself. You see what I'm saying? So I had to really get out of the mindset of like waiting, because I felt like I was waiting too. I'm praying to God, like what the fuck? But all God was asking me to do, and all I was supposed to do for myself rather, is just authentically be me. Like just be me. Like I don't have to dwell on who's not there for me and who's not, who broke up with me and who didn't, like I don't have to worry about none of that, because what's for you will be for you. And what's not, won't. And that's just the reality of things. And when you accept the reality of whatever trajectory, then you're better off. Because now you have more energy to give to yourself, to be who you are and express yourself, to attract more high vibrational experiences. And that's what I'm saying, Karas. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. And as harsh as that can sound, as harsh as that can be, is just the reality. And I think that we all need to think like that. Because when we all, just imagine if we all was like ourselves to the epitome of who we could ever be, like the best version of who we are. Probably, I would give it 98% of us would not be in the relationships that we're in. We wouldn't be doing the things that we're doing. We wouldn't be living the lifestyles we're living. We probably wouldn't have certain children. Like, let's just be honest, bro. You see what I'm saying? Like, we wouldn't have even made certain mistakes that we did make if we were 100%. But that's not really realistic when you come into a reality where your memory is wiped clean. You're on a journey to understanding yourself. And then on top of that, you live in a world that lives backwards. So you also have to figure yourself out through the bullshit that's already going on at the time of conception into the reality you're about to enter. So it's just it's different levels of it, but ultimately it's like we all should be striving to be the best versions of who we are, period. And attract the people, places, and things we want to experience. So yeah, guys, I just I think that's my time now. I really appreciate you guys sitting here and vibing with me. I appreciate you guys for the feedback. I appreciate y'all. Everybody have a great night. I'm gonna have a great night too. I'm gonna go ahead and rest now. It's pretty dark. I'm just sitting outside under the moonlight and the stars. But I just wish everybody nothing but the best. I wish everybody inspiration, motivation, and prosperity along your journeys. And I'll catch up with you soon. I love you too. Until next time. Later.
All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this video as well as my commentary. Please be sure to drop me a comment, smash the heck out of that like button, and share. Guys, I want to give a warm welcome to all of my new subscribers. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the channel. To all of my OGs, my day ones, my ride or dies. Y'all already know what it is. Big up yourself. We in the building with it.